MPC3 this, MPC3 that. Without track mutes, MPC3 is whack. But if it does have track mutes, is MPC3 back? Shout out to 099 for being vigilant in the chat. I think he pointed out one of the small things we might have overlooked utilizing automation, and then with utilizing the trick of sending your MIDI tracks to your drum track, there might be a workaround for no track mutes in MPC3 software. What? I think we found it, guys. What's going on, guys? It's your brother O.T.G. The O.T.G's for Overtime Grind. Hardly seen, but I'm always around. And today we got MPC3 software, and we are in the work. So right now, I am naming my drum track Do Not Mute. Drums, no mute. And now I'm going to make a track. And I'm going to make a MIDI track. I'm going to long press by the name. And once I long press, I'm going to name it clap, just to name it something. I'm going to scroll down and send my MIDI to drums, no mute. Then I'm going to hit pad perform. I can hit shift or the 16 levels. I'm going to go to chromatic, and I'm going to look for my drum sounds. If I can't find my kick or my snare, I'm going to move my octave up and down, and boom. Once I go through all my pads, guess what I got? I got my drums. It's a little bit awkward. Nah, I don't really like it. But guess what? In true MPC fashion, we have a workaround, guys, but I'm going to show you. So right now, first, make sure you like, share, subscribe, comment, check out everything in the description. Shout out to you. Now I'm going to hit the duplicate track. It's going to duplicate all my settings of my MIDI track. I'm going to go in and name that kick. And then I'm going to go find my kick or whatever sound I want. We're going to hit overdub. We're going to record that in. Focus. We're not trying to win Grammys with these beats right here. We're trying to figure out the workaround so we could get our cook on. You get what I'm saying? Now we duplicate the track again. Let's name that to hat. Right now we're just duplicating that first MIDI track. We're in the MPC Live 2, running MPC 3.3 or MPC 3.4 beta. So you can see right now, I'm just making static tracks. I'm going to fill them all up with different sounds, because we're going to try our one sequence method in this new way. Create our drum track, immediately make a MIDI track, send the MIDI to the drum track, and then duplicate those tracks to get our track out of our sounds. This is probably the closest we're going to get it back to the original way. We add in this other clap. You know, you could go through the sounds, find your sound you're looking for, you want to add. Long press, rename it. It's important to rename it because that's going to be important once you get to the mute screen. right, let's add a plug-in in. Let's add a bass or some keys or something. Just so we could get some parts to automate to make our different parts. Shout out to everybody in the comments. I think we found a workaround. Make sure you stay to the end because we're going to see if we can make 2 beats in one project in MPC 3 utilizing this method. Alright, so we're going to use this piano. Probably add some reverb or something, a little bit of delay to this piano. You gotta remember that everything you do, if you're going to make a second beat, you're pretty much stuck with the sounds from the first beat. You can add more, whatever your memory will take. But say if you use this piano and you want to use it again, you're going to have to use it in the way that you made it to preserve your first beat. Let's go over here. Let's use Sub Factory. Now, let's just come up with a little bass line. Something real simple. Because the goal is just to loop out this one sequence and then try the track mutes over it. And then make sure that it's muting each individual part. It's muting the claps, the hi-hats, and all of that, so we have control over our drums on a sound-by-sound basis. And then we also have our arrangement. Now, the arrangement is just going to be one long loop. I'll show you at the end. And if you do a printout, it's going to just print out either your 2-track of what you played, but we will have to see what the bounce out does, if it will follow all of that automation, but it should. Alright. So now let's just add this bass line. Once we get this bass in, we're going to go ahead and get this thing together. Alright, so now on MPC 3, when you copy your sequence out, when you double the length, it takes you back out. So I just did it to 32 bars. We're going to go name our piano and our bass. Make sure we do good housekeeping, name our tracks. It's always important. Now that we have our tracks named, so you can see now my first pad says drums do not mute. So I can mute everything else, which are my dummy tracks, essentially. They're just MIDI tracks with no information that are pointing to the audio information on the first pad. So as long as I don't mute that first pad, I can have control over all the rest of the drum sounds. That's why we named it Drums Don't Mute. So if you didn't notice, at the top, I stopped it. I hit that little red button at the top, which is the automation. I turned it to right. You probably can't see it. But now we're going to listen to the beat all the way through. The song, you can see, it's just one long sequence. We're going to play our mutes in and do it the way that 099 recommended. He's like, well, I thought everybody knew that. Well, we did use it in the old way. We just didn't use it for the track mute, sir. But I'm thankful that you came through and told us, because now, with a little bit of work of splitting out the tracks to separate MIDI tracks, now we might be one step closer to the old school method. It still is an extra step, but it has some benefits and perks, and I'll show you when we get to the second beat. So now we have this playing. Let's see. Let's go to our second sequence. Boom. Now, one thing you have to do is go over and unmute everything. Make sure your automation's back on right. And now let's go in here and fill up something. So you see you got your tracks already. You could go to your clap, your hat, or whatever you want to go to. But this time, let's just start with the piano so you can see it works. So let's just come up with a pretty cool piano riff. Something we can lay down real quick. Okay, now we got that laid down. Let's go to our bass. Lay something down with our bass. Now we got our bass going. So again, from our drum track, instead of putting our sounds on the drum track, what we immediately did after we made our drum track is make a MIDI track. Once we make the MIDI track, we name it whatever we're going to name it, and then we send the MIDI to. So it says send MIDI to the drum track. Now, every track after that we want to add a sound from our drum track, we can clone that one MIDI track and then do it track for track in the old school method. Now, if you want to fix the MIDI, you go into that specific track. But if you want to fix the audio, you would have to go to the drum track, because that's where the audio is housed. So essentially, we're just making a dummy track that is pointing to the drum track and saying, play the music there, or play the WAV file there. So any changes, any edits, anything we want to do, we're going to have to do from the drum track, okay? So that's why all of these tracks are just plain MIDI tracks. They're sending the audio, sending the MIDI notes to the drum track. These tracks are just capturing MIDI information, which has no sound or anything. Now, when we get to our mute screen, that's what we're muting. We're muting the notes in real time that are being sent to whichever track that we're playing. So the key is, now, that was the biggest, even though Freeze99 told us, hey, I thought everybody knew about the automation. The other issue was having all of our drums on one track. Let me say it again. The other issue was having all of the drums on one track. Now, all of the drums are still on one track, but you're able to program those sounds on a track-by-track basis utilizing MIDI. And then with the MIDI workaround that everybody should have known, now a lot of us do know that it works in the track mute way. You can mute your tracks that way. I think that people are so used to the way that, it worked in a lot more straightforward fashion that now going and doing the automation seems a little different. You can see I keep pressing the record button from the use of doing it. But now I just arm the automation, I press play, and now we're automating this. And I'll make a big, huge change so you can see it's something I'm doing in real time. Like I'll mute the piano or something crazy so you can see it's doing it. But I set this at 32 bars. We're recording this through. See, so I just recorded that, muted that piano in a weird place. So you can see it's as responsive as mutes normally work. You know what I mean? A lot of people were worried about the mutes not finishing out notes or cutting out notes at a certain time or something that way. Well, if you're utilizing this method, it will definitely finish out whatever note is playing. No instantaneous mutes. And so now we're about to be at the end of this beat. And guess what, guys? We have a workaround for track mutes. Make a drum track. As soon as you load your drum kit up and whatever, make a MIDI track. Send that MIDI track to the drum track. Now, every time you want to play a different part from your drum track, duplicate the MIDI track and switch to chromatic mode and find whichever part you want to play and record it in. Always remember, you cannot or you don't want to mute your drum track, so you want to label it a way that you'll remember. And now, this method, we can have multiple songs in one project. We can have our mutes recorded without destructive editing, and we can build multiple songs, and it's only one extra step. Couple things you gotta remember. To make the edits, you gotta do it from the drum track, send to MIDI, clone from there, chromatic mode on the pads. Those three things, we have a workaround for track mutes, and now they're available inside of MPC 3 thanks to Freeze99 on the automation, and thanks to myself on figuring out the MIDI tracks, combining them together. We could track out our songs, at least in this workaround we can. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, comment. It might be hope for MPC3 after all. O.T.G.